It's back to more of the Business Edge on V1370.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Business Edge. I'm Angie Huffman, your host of HFS Associates. And with us today, we have Teresa Barrett of DABS. We have Paula Bizaker of Remarriage LLC. And we have Chris Appel of Encore Path. And we're talking about woman entrepreneurs, and these ladies are all relatively new women entrepreneurs, and we're looking at the challenges and success stories there. And as we were going to break, we were talking about those specific challenges for women business owners, and Paula was talking about having kids and the extra challenges that are there. And Teresa, if I remember correctly, your children are grown, right? Yes. So I think Paula, out of the four of us here, has a bigger challenge. I have to say, because I can't imagine. I know Chris doesn't have any children. Teresa's are grown. I don't have any children. I can't imagine how you do it with kids. Because I know, like you say, you wear all the hats. I mean, all of us here are wearing all the hats, except for where you guys have allowed me to take on the accounting hat for you. We're all wearing the hats, and then to add on to that, the mother thing. How do you balance all of that?
I don't know. I just am starting to learn, take one day at a time.
Well, you said you got your children involved, right, in your business a little bit?
I do. I have, like my two teenagers at home. They've done a little bit of research for me, and one of them, don't tell the IRS I'm paying them, a little bit under the table to do some Google searches for me. Now I'm on their radar. But Angie, you've got me covered.
I got you covered, right?
But I guess it's just take each day one day at a time, and I don't really have any secret. I think just having a very supportive husband and family, and just diving in, and kind of like if you don't do it, who will? If you stay up, you have to stay up late to do whatever. You just have to do it. Right. And I've been, the other side of this coin is that I've been really blessed. While I work many more hours than I did in my old career, because it's a startup and you expect that, I get to call the hours. It's I can go up to the school at 10 o'clock and change his insulin set. Because I know I can work later this evening. Being an entrepreneur in some ways offers me a lot more flexibility to take care of the kids and do the things I need to do.
Right. And I do want to point out what you were saying about that you work more than you ever have, but it allows you the flexibility. And that's one thing when I'm talking to people who they come to me for advice because they're thinking about starting a business. They come with these big eyes that say, okay, I'm going to be able to call all the shots, I'm going to work less and make a lot more. And the reality is, at least in the first several years, you're going to work a lot more for less money than you've ever made. But I think when you make it a labor of love as well, I think it makes up for it. And so, you're going to work 90 hours a week, but you can pick which 90 hours a week you work, as opposed to a boss saying what time you have to be there. Teresa, what kind of challenges have you found as a woman? And also, give us the minority perspective as well. If you've feel like you've had more challenges because of that, or has it been easier, like Chris has said, because there's more programs out there?
I think part of it is that having grown children in no way exempts you from the challenges of motherhood.
Well, that's true.
I thought that perhaps that would be so. But certainly motherhood is one challenge, even when the children are grown. From the minority angle, I think what I had to do more than anything else is just put myself with like-minded persons, irregardless of who they are in terms of nationality, religion. And that has helped significantly to put myself with like-minded persons. I was a startup business, and I was still trying to get my support and find my support network with what I call 9-to-5ers. And it was just a bad mix, I think, for a startup business. And so like Chris, I kind of availed myself to the resources that are available to myself as a woman entrepreneur, as a minority entrepreneur. One resource that comes to mind immediately was WEB, Women Entrepreneurs of Baltimore, and the other one was the Small Business Administration. So for me, I think that helped me kind of put the minority curve in perspective so that it became more of an enhancement to what I wanted to do rather than an obstacle.
Okay, excellent. Yeah. And there I liked how you pointed out that the challenges of motherhood, just because your children are grown, it does not. And thank you for correcting me on that. You know, my not having children, my perception is okay. Their kids are grown and they're out of your hair, but that doesn't happen.
But on the other hand, I have aging parents that I'm caring for.
Okay.
My mother has Alzheimer's. My father has lung cancer.
Oh wow.
So they live in Michigan. So I found myself flying to Michigan to take care of them. Now I'm trying to get them to move out here.
Okay.
So it's funny, all these different stages of your life, all these other challenges. It never ends, I think.
Right.
You know, these
True.
kinds of responsibilities.
But I think what you're all pointing out here is that no matter how wonderful and supportive our husbands are, those types of life duties do seem to fall more on the women than the men. And I'm not saying they're shirking their duties or whatever. I think in some ways we take that away from them, and hold on to it for ourselves. But those kind of family issues, taking care of whatever stage of family they're in. I'm also fortunate in that my parents are still very healthy and and active. And actually they're young enough that we're all going to be senior citizens before I have to start taking care of them. But, so those, I think, are, and if there's any men out there that disagree with us, please give us a call at 410-481-1370. But I do think that is a challenge for us. I liked how, Teresa, you mentioned some resources, and Chris mentioned some resources. Women Entrepreneurs of Baltimore, they are an excellent resource. And given this holiday season, if you have any money left in your contribution budgets, they would be an excellent place to donate some money, because they run all totally off of contributions, and they're becoming individual contributions are becoming much more important for them. I do a little bit of work with them, so I'm aware of that. They're having the grants seem to be drying up and that sort of thing, but it's a wonderful program. And Chris, tell us a little bit more about Activate.
Well, Activate is a year-long program. It meets once a week and one Saturday a month in the evening, and it is for mid-career women, and it develops the skills you need to open your own technology company. It's a fabulous program. They are recruiting for the class of 2008. If you go to the web, www.umbc.edu/activate, and you can read about how to apply for the program. But it really walks you through the steps to starting a business, how to find your technology, how to license it, how to protect it with a patent, how to put your financials together, how to do a business plan, and how to make presentations to investors. So in addition to that, they actively help you build your network, which has been absolutely critical to my success. The network that I've built, the connections that I've made have really gotten me as far as I've gotten, and the program was an excellent start.
And I think that networking piece is extremely important. I have found it very important, and Teresa has mentioned that about surrounding yourself with like-minded people. Because you're right, Teresa. You're not going to get support from 9-to-5ers. It's just not going to happen, because they're just in a totally different mindset. They don't understand. I can remember the first business I started out of college, where with in-laws I had at the time, where I was the obvious babysitter when anybody had a problem with childcare or whatever, because of course I wasn't working. It's like, no, that's not the case. I was working. So as far as those challenges go. And I just lost my thought where I was going with this, but as far as surrounding yourself with a network, what kind of networks have you been able to surround yourself with, Paula?
Well, I've leveraged off of local networks such as the Network Referral Group, the Howard County Chamber of Commerce, starting to explore the Women's Business Network out of Columbia. But what I've had a lot of luck in, and this is one of the most pleasant surprises I've had with starting my company, is cold calling people. You would be amazed.
Really?
Yes. You would be amazed at how much support and interest that I've had from people across the country in this magazine. I cold called, a gentleman out in California, Ephraim Zimbalist Jr.'s son. His name is Skip Zimbalist III. He's one of the first people that I called because I read about him in an existing magazine, which is for magazine publishers. And as I was crafting my business plan, I said, well, I'd really like to talk to somebody to help me shape my long-term goals. I cold called him, and here's some big media magnate, and he said, sure, I'll help you. So he's been talking to me on a quarterly basis. Another example is Bruce Cameron, who actually authored the book, The 8 Rules for Dating My Teenage Daughter. John Ritter was in the ABC show that based on that book. We cold called him, and he's a featured author in my premiere issue.
Wow.
So I just encourage people, don't tell yourself no. Let others tell you no.
Yes.
And you don't know until you ask. So that's how I've been networking, just kind of maybe pestering people. But I'd say the overwhelming majority are there to help.
Wow.
It's just been very nice to see happy people helping.
Right. Well, and I think what you were saying is a very good point about don't tell yourself no before you've even asked. And that's one thing I've learned through growing my own businesses. It never hurts to ask. And it's amazing how often I've had to really suck down some air and get the words out of my mouth to ask somebody for help with something or their advice on something, and how often people are like, sure. And you're like, huh? But then you got to think about it from your own perspective. If somebody called any one of you 3 ladies and asked for help with something, they needed advice, would you say no? Probably not.
But we are conditioned to be so self-sufficient. It was really, I had the same experience. It was really hard to train myself to ask. Now I'm sitting here with a broken ankle on crutches, and I actually asked my mother-in-law to come over today and help me around the house and help me do the laundry because I can't do it. And it was really hard for me to do that because, I feel like I should be able to do this. I can achieve whatever I want to achieve, but, I can't do laundry right now.
And thankful she was there to be able to help you, and she probably loved the fact that you called her and asked her to help.
So.
So as far as networks, Teresa, how'd you go about finding networks to surround yourself with like-minded people? Because I think that is a challenge that we do have, is finding those like-minded people. How'd you go about that?
Well, picking up on the segue about asking, I did ask. I asked around. Within the philanthropic industry anyway, there are certain networks that you would tap into because grant writing is actually a component of fundraising. So, of course, I went to the Association of Fundraising Professionals. And from there, I, went into that network and started telling them, well, I only do one part of fundraising, so I really need something that's specific to the one part that I do. So that was one way that I went, just these professional affiliations that I had from my career anyway, and tapped into those networks. I asked. In one case, I was forced to ask, and that's when it came to doing my finances. It was just... the Small Business Administration highly recommended to me, advised me, you're going to have to get someone to do that because, and Angie, you know this, the way I was keeping my books was just beyond embarrassing.
Okay.
And all of a sudden I found myself with an opportunity to present how I was keeping my books for a contract. And it was just too embarrassing. And I kind of had to step away from that and say, wait a minute. What infrastructure do I really need to put in place, even as a new entrepreneur, to make this presentable, to be within the networks that I really want to be in, and to grow my business?
All right. Well, thank you, Teresa. We need to go to break. This is Angie Huffman of the Business Edge. Come back and we'll talk some more about women entrepreneur owners.